Continuous.
Continuous.
Continuous sound will give you flow.
No. Causing the predicament that, with your application of continuous gyration and torque, was finally broken, allowing me to escape.
If it were not for this continuous stream of motor impulses, we would collapse like a bunch of...
Now waltz, move, get continuous movement.
Which is essentially a continuous series of tiny strokes.
连续的
Contort.
Contort.
It's like the studio are wanting me to contort the love story so that it all ends happily and everything's rosy and...
Like up the edge, you don't die so much as contort for a good 15 minutes.
The muscles of his face would twist and contort and pull, but you see, shot number one relaxes all those muscles, so we don't have to see any horror show.
The seizures may lock up the joints and slightly contort the body.
We don't have to taste the blood of revenge on our lips, while this human being's organs writhe, twist, contort.
扭弯
Contortion.
Contortion.
Exact description of the contortion is immaterial.
I was read to as a child, mostly books about survival and contortion.
My face squeezes into that crying contortion you all know so well, but nothing comes out.
Requires quite a bit of contortion.
Yes, and now if you'll be kind enough to do the line again without the facial contortion, which you find necessary to go with it.
扭弯
Contour.
Contour.
For the kids, there's the butch or the hiney, the flat top, the ivy, the crew, the vanguard, the junior contour, and occasionally...
Look at the contour of the face.
The executive contour.
They have said a mop of tangled hair, a child's contour map of the Battle of Gettysburg.
You see, it's actually quite exciting because the nature of the contour here means that there's an effect, which is named after me, as a matter of fact, where the flow of the aquifer goes against the gravitational...
轮廓画轮廓显示轮廓的
Contraband.
Contraband.
Dude, we can't have these contraband Subway cups out in the open.
General Hunter rounded up a bunch of slaves from the fields, called them contraband, and put them in camps like cattle.
If we keep burning all this contraband, eventually there won't be anything left to burn.
Contraband regiment is his brainchild. They pay commercial pilots to smuggle homegrown contraband through Canadian hubs, Vancouver and Montreal. Right?
违禁品禁运的
Contraception.
Contraception.
And a return to the Church's harsh condemnation of homosexuality, abortion, contraception, and the ordination of women and marriage.
Foiled by faulty contraception.
Has she talked to you about contraception?
I'm not saying that you guys should use the scoop out method as contraception.
Like marriage is important to gays, or contraception to women's rights.
避孕
Contraceptive.
Contraceptive.
By vandalizing a contraceptive device?
I've never even thought contraceptive thoughts. I've never used contraceptive devices.
Looking back, you must have thought you were a fool to have escaped something so obvious as the use of a contraceptive spermicide.
We would have contraceptive beer.
避孕的避孕剂
Contract.
Contract.
Because of the wage price freeze 3 years ago, the union did not get a cost of living clause in its contract, and this time the URW is demanding.
Bitch gets paid, IVF docs get paid, medical bills, maternity clothes, lawyer fee, contract fees, low end 40 grand.
How much longer is left on my contract?
I don't have to honor a contract with the devil.
Our marriage contract includes getting through a birthday party for my father.
合约使皱缩皱缩
Contractor.
Contractor.
All I know is that he's a building contractor living out of a suitcase.
An email from the Sweetie Pants contractor 2 years ago.
And your grandfather a contractor.
So some contractor wants to build a dam and he makes a few payoffs.
We've been investigating a private security contractor called Elkhorn for the last 5 years.
And?
立契约的人
Contractual.
Contractual.
Standard contractual language.
My former contractual obligations, madam, tied us together to my advantage.
Since we have an agreement, a contractual agreement, I believe, we would cover Watergate in our last taping session.
There were the usual contractual difficulties.
With the contractual obligations fulfilled, we settled down to talk about cars.
契约的
contradict, contradict,
Absolutely nothing publicly which would contradict our findings.
As well as to give the defense an opportunity to have the witnesses' reports reviewed by a defense expert who might then be in a position to contradict the veracity of his conclusions.
I'm afraid I must contradict you.
If it is not true, let Mr. Darcy contradict it himself.
Losing would contradict your self-love, and losing would show your obedience to your lover and not to yourself.
Really?
反驳
contradiction, contradiction,
Contradiction? There is no greatest crime.
There's a contradiction in terms in any language.
There's a contradiction in terms.
Walking contradiction.
You are the contradiction, a machine who wishes to be human.
反驳
contradictory, contradictory,
and overlooking or even ignoring contradictory information.
It's too hard, it's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you.
Mr. Keene, there seems to be a lot of innuendo and contradictory testimony about the genesis of the big-eyed waifs.
That seems a bit contradictory, Captain.
You're issuing contradictory instructions.
反驳的矛盾因素
contraption, contraption,
I can get your contraption together by 5 a.m.
Hated the fact that the others were seducing her, and I was strapped to some contraption and I was made to watch.
They're just glued to some mechanical contraption, you know, that moves on its own, like a timepiece or a wind-up.
This is one of those evenings when one feels like this contraption here. What is this contraption?
奇妙的装置
contrary, contrary,
and in spite of the reports that you may have seen to the contrary, appears to be completely benign in nature.
Look here, contrary to what you and your wife may think, I don't spend my nights thinking about you.
On the contrary, Mr. Bond, the risk is all on your side.
Quite the contrary.
That was to illustrate the fact that, contrary to popular belief, women of the time had the tongues of filthy sailors.
相反的，相反的
contrast, contrast,
I think it's a tremendous contrast.
Contrast to his former heroics.
Look at the forms, the contrast of the color palette, the layers.
My teacher loved the high contrast photo I took downtown.
What about the contrast between you two?
差别使对比成对照
contravene, contravene,
Right. Are you formally requesting me to contravene the Geneva Convention?
It may just be a rapping operative, sir, but this contravenes...
17.
I'm not going to contravene orders.
Like laws that contravene the Irish Constitution.
Well, he reckons it just has to contravene the Constitution.
违反
contribute, contribute,
And that she did not want to contribute to the toll of human misery and suffering in the world.
He can contribute to the world, and we can help him do that.
Is that all you ever have to contribute, Van Patten?
Okay, well, if labor scarcity is the issue, I'd be willing to contribute to the labor issue.
So, what exactly do we contribute to this?
有助于出力
contribution, contribution.
But before I do, I wish to make a small contribution.
Oh, thanking me for my contribution?
Put it down as a religious contribution.
This panel recognizes the IMF's contribution to global security.
Well, look, I have a contribution to the party.
捐助
contributor, contributor.
I happen to be a major contributor to this.
Mr. Boz was a major contributor to the mayor's campaign.
My mother was a heavy financial contributor to the Orchids research facility at the university.
Said I was an inventor, contributor to society.
The caption said, President's most secret and generous contributor.
贡献者
contrite, contrite.
Actually, I'm going to be contrite.
He called us contrite.
Was there all right, and they're not so contrite.
I come before you as but a servant, humble and contrite.
Would you like to hear my contrite reply?
悔悟了的
Contrition.
Contrition.
Even the political press corps, the hard-bitten political press corps, called David up with messages of contrition and congratulation.
Contrition, yes.
Put your hands together in contrition.
Well, but confession must be made in the spirit of contrition.
You will express deep sorrow and repentance, sincere and vocal contrition.
完全悔悟
Contrivance.
Contrivance.
A contrivance against him so that...
Every theatrical performance is a contrivance by its very nature.
No way, because I like being dead, and that's where the metaphor, the analogy, the whole preposterous contrivance falls apart.
So would yours be if a contrivance had exploded all over it?
Very well, even though my personal inclination is to have Mr. Douglas clapped into jail and this four-wheeled contrivance dropped into the bay.
发明
Contrive.
Contrive.
I even speculated as to how I might contrive it.
Nor let thy soul contrive against thy mother aught.
She didn't contrive anything.
Well, how did she contrive to make your acquaintance?
发明
Contrived.
Contrived.
Contrived, and that...
Contrived to have you win the Medal of Honor, and has you poised to be the first privately owned and operated Vice President of the United States.
I thought it was too contrived.
The most offensive assault on the human palate ever contrived.
Yet, in spite of these careful arrangements, she contrived to spend the night with a third party.
人造的
Control.
Control.
And after she lost her marbles with her remote control.
Come on, I want to see complete control.
I heard he took all of his mother's birth control pills.
It's just physical, and I have it totally under control.
The whole world's going to be under our control, so what are you worked up about?
控制
Controller.
Controller.
Big drug dealer on his way to prison. Gunfight in airport. Every controller in the coffee shop getting beeped and hauling ass, and you rocking the boat. The next...
I was meant to be in Seoul, but the air traffic controller strike screwed everything up, so now I'm on the...
The controller heard it, and they're pulling tapes to see exactly what was said on the frequency.
We just had a meeting with the controller about some union business, and guess what?
You need an air traffic controller. 控制器
Controversial.
Controversial.
Fucking nothing about you that is controversial, man.
I can see why people think it's controversial to be remaking it today, but the free will concept is fascinating.
Speaking of things controversial, is it true that there is a marijuana problem here in Vietnam?
That's controversial.
Yeah. The suspected murderer, Kevin Crum, suffers from the controversial psychological disorder DID.
争论的
Controversy.
Controversy.
From the beginning, Muhammad Ali's career was marred by controversy and...
Next topic, NASCAR and the controversy that won't go away.
Ooh, controversy.
Princess Diana embroiled in more controversy as she pulls out of a meeting with MPs.
That's a surprising amount of controversy for gin and lemonade.
论争
Contusion.
Contusion.
But it is a rather large contusion, and I'd like to keep an eye on him.
He hit me in the cafeteria, causing a blunt force contusion to the soft tissue surrounding my orbital bone.
That is a pretty nasty contusion you have there.
What leg contusion? What's the difference between a concussion and a contusion?
捣碎
Conundrum.
Conundrum.
He learned the word conundrum.
It is a conundrum, for sure.
What I said was that there was some interest at conundrum.
Yeah.
You proffer a metaphysical conundrum.
谜语
Convalesce.
Convalesce.
And you can carry on with your studies while you convalesce.
He's got nowhere to convalesce.
I needed a soft bed in which to convalesce.
I was on my way to a sanatorium to convalesce, more likely to die. When en route, this Indian scout told me a curious story.
It has been seen fit that Irma should convalesce at the home of Colonel Fitzhubert in Mount Macedon.
渐渐康复
Convalescence.
Convalescence.
He remembered Heather's convalescence.
I used to think that a long period of convalescence would be like an ocean voyage.
It seems you need more time for your convalescence.
Well, if you really have such a gift for gardening, you may assist us later in your convalescence.
Yes, yes. He spent his convalescence with us here, and many very rich and very important people.
监狱
Convalescent. Convalescent.
He will soon be moved to a convalescent clinic.
I see this very kind, very gentle, very wise old man in a convalescent home.
I was transferred to convalescent home.
Reminds me of our days as a convalescent home during the war.
Perhaps he'll go to the convalescent home with cloister bed among the villas.
恢复健康的恢复中的病人
Convection. Convection.
Between us with a here and us with across the sea. A convection.
Double convection oven underneath?
Technically, it's a self-cleaning convection oven.
The convection chimney, here.
With a convection oven, you should enter.
传送
Convene. Convene.
Don't convene another subcommittee to investigate me, sir.
Grace was standing beside Tom, watching them convene.
The committee cannot convene for several days because...
Were you able to convene the board?
集合聚集
Convenience. Convenience.
A marriage of convenience is going to be quite inconvenient.
So, whether it's about fear of contaminants, convenience, or just that crisp taste, bottled water has become an $18 billion a year business.
The British find it amusing to inspect us at their convenience.
This is a life of convenience for you, and any attempt to change it would shatter the pathetic microcosm you've fashioned for yourself.
We compared the tire marks outside the convenience store with the rear tires of the defendant's car.
方便
Convenient. Convenient.
And a handy, convenient chain.
Goldie almost ruined everything. She stayed in public places, and then with you. You were so convenient.
Gosh, that's so convenient for you.
It was more convenient to formalize our engagement tonight just in time for the board to vote, instead of having a real party when the time was right.
It's certainly convenient for the Zoom.
方便的
Convent. Convent.
I killed something in a convent last night.
I was born on a beautiful southern convent.
I'm from the convent.
Well, there's tertiary evidence of the prestigious convent school that de Beauvoir attended.
You can go back to your harem, and I will be entering the convent soon.
女修道会
Convention. Convention.
Beelzebub, when I was at a Chiller Theater convention, and I had my own table, and he happened to be right next to me.
He just got back from a convention and did some sort of talk on the skill set of a small-town police officer.
Sierra's going to be signing autographs, so I might just have a bit of a wander around the convention, explore.
So I hear you're here all the way from Africa for the big medical convention.
There's strangers at a convention.
大会
Conventional. Conventional.
You know, Southpaw Conventional kicks more straight up because you're kicking the inside.
I've exhausted about every conventional method of approach to this situation.
Pre-crime has eliminated the need for conventional detectives.
The idea of trying to cover this race in any conventional press sense was absurd.
We've been unable to stop him with our conventional methods.
传统的
Converge. Converge.
And in that way, the past and the present converge.
Making love to Ramona that night, Lester felt their bodies converge.
The lines on the map don't converge.
We will then converge on the encampment.
Women seem to converge.
聚合使集合
Convergence. Convergence.
All points of convergence.
Do you recall what I taught you of the convergence?
Her work in the convergence is made of the world's foremost astronomer.
Microgravimetric spikes can stabilize the focal point of the convergence.
Or absolution, or benediction, or anything, other than an incredible convergence of circumstances which you have exploited to your client's benefit.
集中
Conversant. Conversant.
Are you conversant, sir, with the facts of this case? I'm afraid you're not fully conversant with the real facts of the situation.
You appear to be quite conversant on the subject, General.
You conversant with Architectural Digest?
You're conversant with the case?
熟悉的
Conversation. Conversation.
And then I'm going to have a similar conversation with Olivia.
Now we have to have an unpleasant conversation, and we were having such a nice time.
Some conversation.
That's a great conversation starter.
We had this conversation last night.
绘画
Conversational.
Conversational.
Someone who has their underlings root for conversational topics.
Conversing conversationally about conversational things like your Converse.
Thank you as well for the conversational hiatus.
You're a wonderful conversational companion.
Your conversational skills are really deteriorating as the day goes on.
绘画的
Converse.
Converse.
Did you converse with Holland at that time?
I gather you do not converse with many peasants.
Did you converse with the Almighty?
To confer, converse, and otherwise hobnob with my brother wizards.
You converse, you talk to people and they have interesting stories.
相反的事物，相反的交谈
Conversely.
Conversely.
And in penal escape situations could conversely identify those self-same traps as an aid to apprehension.
Conversely, if you remove the taboo, you remove the obsession.
Even in the most disparaging of conditions, life can find its meaning, and conversely, so can one's suffering.
So conversely, it may also be his best chance against us.
Yes, there is, but conversely, it does not mean that there is not also a legal argument for releasing the weapon now.
相反
Conversion.
Conversion.
Doesn't understand that my conversion process is still limited.
Gentlemen, that is the conversion point. That clump of trees.
An American took the time to do a metric conversion.
Suggs is so desperate for his converts, they started prioritizing class structure over actual conversion.
Conversion of the Moulin Rouge into a theater will cost a fantastic sum of money, Ziegler.
转变
Convert. Convert.
I'd like to transfer those accounts and convert them to bonds.
She's prosecuting the catalytic convert case.
We don't convert.
Well, we got a call that they did convert you to a mental hygiene law admission status by the deadline of your sentence, so...
Wait a minute.
You only need to convert to 3 more religions, Piscine, and you will spend your life on holiday.
皈依者使改变信仰，皈依